luncheon. I didn't see you there.
I'm on a diet.
Certainly don't look fat to me. But neither does he.
Welcome to episode 27 of the Colombo podcast, where neither of us are on diets.
I'm on a seafood diet, Gerry.
Be quiet, Ian. The old ones certainly are the worst. How are you doing this evening, Ian?
And I'm doing pretty well this evening.
Yeah?
Fully caffeinated.
Enjoying the weather?
It's blissful. I have to take my jumper up before I start recording now.
Yeah, it's better than normal.
Absolutely. People don't believe us. They'll think, yeah, they can't be in Scotland. They already think we're not in Scotland.
We're just trying to, continue the act. The accent's getting worse.
That's it.
Enjoy this week's episode?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I thought it was a good episode. I really enjoyed it.
You said you preferred it to last week's.
I did.
This was also a location-based episode.
Yeah, we've had one, at least one previously. We had the one in London in season 2.
Mm-hmm. And last week we were on the...
I suppose, yes, last week we were on the base, weren't we? There you go. So there's a few now.
Mm-hmm. Colombo is nearly the proverbial, or just about the proverbial, fish out of water, or nearly fish in water. In this
Very
episode.
nearly.
Yeah. Before we start this week's episode, Ian, anything you want to say?
Well, just the usual plea to the listeners to...
Beg.
I'm going to beg you, please, go and give us a star rating on even if you don't use iTunes to listen to the podcast. If you could go into your podcasts app if you're on iOS, or the iTunes app on your desktop computer. If you could do that, keep it going. We are bubbling under. There's like a top rated list. We're not quite on it, so if folk could give us some more reviews or more ratings, that would make a big difference. It would be very pleasing.
And we have had lots of people reviewing and responding and engaging, and we really do appreciate it.
Yeah, the people who have made the effort, thank you very much. The people who haven't,
come on,
please, please.
Okay, Ian, we've got another extended episode this week. It's
last one of the season.
Yeah, it's the last long one of the season.
Yes,
I was getting confused there. Yeah, yeah. The shorter ones it'll be nice to get back to a sort of 70-minute, more efficient episode.
Yeah, it'll maybe mean I don't have to get up quite so early on Sunday morning to watch it.
So, yeah, as I say, we've got it's a fairly long episode, so why don't you crack on with this week's summary?
Hayden Danziger takes advantage of a cruise to Acapulco to settle an old score and dispose of an old flame. A singer with a taste for blackmail. Faking a heart attack, he sets up the perfect alibi and frames his victim's bandmate in the process. The ship's captain is convinced, but as fortune would have it, Lieutenant Colombo is on board, his wife having won the cruise in a contest. What hopes Danziger had of escaping without suspicion, then, are lost. But can Colombo solve the case before the ship docks and the Mexican authorities take responsibility?
We'll soon find out.
Well, in about an hour and a half's time, yep.
We start at a dock, and we see a large cruise liner, and we see Colombo running and jumping.
Yeah,
and
his jazz music playing.
Yeah, nice soundtrack,
yeah,
or nice score.
It kind of puts you in the mood for a holiday.
Yes, there's some nice music throughout the entire episode.
Yeah.
So we see Colombo jumping and hurtling and trying to get on this boat, not the ship, this boat.
He seems very excited for someone who hates sailing.
Yeah, he's wearing his normal clothes.
As usual. Garb.
Do you not question Mrs. Colombo?
Should she be dressing him better?
Especially back in the day when perhaps guys or police officers or people of Colombo's ilk may not have... No, they're not the sort of metrosexual. They may have had their clothes bought for them.
Perhaps.
Dressed by the wife, and she might have said, come on, you can't be wearing that.
Perhaps he insisted, but we do see later in the episode that maybe she hasn't packed as many of his plain shirts as he'd hoped.
We'll get to that fantastic brown shirt.
Yes.
So yeah, we see Colombo tries to get on he manages to get on the ship, and he tells a purser Watkins, that he can't find the aforementioned wife, who is already aboard.
Yeah, well, he's lost his wife and he's mistaken the purser for the captain. But the real captain shows up and assures Colombo that he remembers Mrs. Colombo boarding, which I believe is the first independent evidence of her actual existence.
Yes, I think so. We also have a running joke here. The captain corrects Colombo. It's not a boat, it's a ship.
Yes, they maybe use that one time too many in the episode.
The captain, is it Gibbon?
Something like that. Gribbon, I thought maybe Gibbon.
Arrives, and we're told that there are 500 passengers on the cruise.
Doesn't seem very many for a ship that size.
No. maybe they're picking more up.
Perhaps there's a stop on the way.
The captain makes a quip about Columbo's expectations with regards to the weather. I think he's referencing his attire.
Yeah.
As Columbo leaves, we see the captain greet Mr. and Mrs. Danziger.
Yes, it's a familiar face there.
Who is it?
It's Robert Vaughn from Hustle.
It is. We'll talk about him later. Did you recognise the other familiar face? Well, there's
the
two.
purser was familiar.
The purser we've met already.
Yes.
Do you remember who that was?
He was Bernard Hill.
Nope. He was Bernard Fox. Bernard Fox.
Bernard Hill, is he the guy from Lord of the Rings?
You're thinking of Benny Hill.
No, I'm not thinking of Benny Hill.
Was Benny Hill in Lord of the Rings?
No, Benny Hill was not in Lord of the Rings.
Chasing those little Ewoks around or whoever it is.
No.
What do they chase, those hairy-toed little munchkins?
Let's move on.
Okay.
Before you offend everybody.
Everybody who likes hairy-toed munchkin Ewoks.
That's the majority of our listeners.
I don't think so. They all love Star Trek.
And Lord of the Rings.
They don't all love... We'll find out.
I'm sure we will.
So yeah, Bernard Fox, Purser Watkins, he played Superintendent Dirk in Dagger of the Mind, the London episode.
A very well discussed episode on ColomboPodcast.com.
It was discussed, certainly.
Discussed at great length, and if you have missed that discussion, it might be worth going back and reading through it because it was entertaining.
Disgusted, more like.
Some folk were disgusted, some folk enjoyed it.
Yeah, each to their own.
It's interesting though because he was one of the actors who showed up in London, so they either got him there or they took him there, but now he's on a boat in Mexico. Which is a strange coincidence.
Very strange. We find out that Mr. Danziger has 104 couples as guests. That's a lot of guests. That's 208 people.
It's almost half the people on the boat.
And they're all auto dealers. Second-hand car salesman.
It could be that they're franchisees, maybe. He's a Milo Janice type.
Yes. And the captain assures Danziger that his guests will have a wonderful time. We then see Danziger in his cabin.
Yeah, he's lost his golf gloves and he gets annoyed at his wife for no real reason.
Yeah, he has a little tiff with her, but they seem to make up, and we find out they're destined, as you say, for Acapulco in Mexico.
Yeah.
We go to the deck and we see Columbo on the phone to apparently his wife.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that call was connected, but he seems to be speaking to her. He still hasn't found her, though. I think this is before he's even found where she is on the boat.
I really do hope that the suspicion that Mrs. Colombo is a figment of his imagination or a tool that's used in his police procedural is not the case, because if it is a figment of his imagination, he really is a...
We're talking serious issues, not only for Columbo, but also for the captain of the ship, who claims to have seen her.
Somebody, apparently.
Unless he just brought somebody along and called her Mrs. Colombo for the trip.
We head off to Purser Watkins' his room, his cabin.
Just before that, you get a very brief scene on the bridge as they move the ship up to full speed, which shows we're now leaving the dock and we're out into the open seas.
No turning back.
International waters where jurisdiction is woolly.
In the purser's room, Danziger complains that his room has only been given one key.
It's a lie.
Yep, and as the purser opens the cabinet to provide a spare, we see Danziger comment that they use these Ving keys.
Yeah. Scandinavian brand, just like the boat.
So we note that he is interested in this cabinet, which becomes important later in the episode.
Yeah.
We then have a fire drill, and the purser leaves.
Conveniently.
Not the only convenient fire drill in this episode.
Yeah, now if the fire drills are done to a schedule, that ties in with something we find out later on about Danziger having taken this cruise previously.
Yes. We go to a shopping area, and Columbo asks Danziger about room service. His wife's starving, and he's told to push the red button on the phone, but he seems quite impatient to move on. He doesn't want to communicate.
He's
with Columbo.
anxious to get away, but he gives good advice anyway. It's the correct information that Columbo needs, so he's not fobbing him off completely.
And it's at this point we find out, as you mentioned, that Columbo's wife had won the trip in a raffle for... it was a raffle for the Holy Name Society.
I don't know what that is.
It's a fairly conservative, perhaps, I wouldn't say extremist, but extreme branch of the Catholic Church.
Okay, so she was either supporting it or as part of it.
I think she was supporting it, my understanding. Okay. We also find out this is Columbo's first cruise, which is unsurprising.
He's not a big fan of the open sea.
Well, we found out in the past that he gets fairly seasick.
Yeah, well, I think on a bigger boat that's mitigated to a certain extent.
Not that much,
not
as we
completely.
find. We then go back to Danzinger's room and we see him, he is alone and he's reading a code book. Now, is this ship's codes or codes for keys?
I think it's the information he needs to cut the key.
Yep. Because he's using a key cutting tool. He's
That's
making a duplicate key.
It could be the brand, so it could be that there's a certain code that opens all Vink locks.
Yeah, sure.
That may be what he's looking at. Like if you program your remote control for your television to control your box and your TV, you would use a set manufacturer's code. Same sort of idea, maybe.
Sure. Down to the bar we go, and we see a chap called Lloyd.
Familiar face again.
Yes, he is sitting with Artie and a woman. As you rightly say, Lloyd is a familiar face. He was played by Dean Stockwell.
Yep, he's here to put right what once went wrong.
He played Eric Wagner in The Most Crucial Game, so we discuss him in a bit more detail in that episode of the podcast.
Yeah, we just probably don't need to go too far into him again.
Lloyd is sitting with, as I say, Artie and a woman, and they tell him to cheer up and that someone called Rosanna will show up. Now, they appear all to be part of a band, and Rosanna, we discover, is the singer.
Yes.
Artie advises that she will hang him out to dry.
Yeah, basically she's out of his league.
Mm-hmm. But Lloyd doesn't want this advice. He's not interested in being
I think
told.
he's a bit infatuated. I wonder if she's maybe...
Puppy love, he's...
Well, either that or she's maybe kind of led him on a little bit on a previous occasion.
Mm-hmm.
It certainly seemed that he seemed to have a genuine expectation that something would be continued, so presumably something's happened previously.
Yeah. I think he's sort of fallen for her, hasn't he?
He certainly seems to be infatuated, and I don't think she's interested. She brushes him off. She's not happy,
Well,
or he's not happy either.
Rosanna arrives and she sits separately from the group and Lloyd goes over to join her. And we do discover they've had some sort of fling anyway. They've had something. And he wants more, but she is uninterested and she tells him so. He doesn't take it well.
Well, he gets angry and yells at her. Now, I wasn't sure that it almost seemed staged, like he was making a show of how he was deciding that this was not okay or something. I don't know.
Yeah, but it wasn't. I mean, I think you get the impression, even though this is obviously a middle-aged man, it's like a sort of spurned young boy, the way he acts and reacts. He takes the huff and he leaves anyway. He's not happy.
No, he's not in any way happy.
We head off to Lloyd's cabin, but before we get there, we see Danziger dispose of the book and the key cutter overboard.
Yeah.
And he then goes to the cabin, Lloyd's cabin.
Yeah. It's a very elaborate ship-looking set that they've got here.
Mm-hmm. It's not a set.
Okay.
As you can probably guess. It was shot on a real cruise liner with real guests.
There you go.
It was, the Sun Princess apparently was the name of the ship. Yeah, all the extras were real guests, real passengers. The crew just filmed and shot around them. Imagine that, you're one of the extras in a Colombo episode.
I wonder if any of our listeners were one of the extras in the Colombo episode.
Unfortunately, I think we would have found that out by now.
Yeah, possibly. 1975 this aired, so 1974.
Yeah.
Well, there could be some.
If anyone was on the ship, or knows of anyone who was on the ship, I know it's a tiny little chance, but...
Infinitesimal chance, but yeah, let us know.
Get in touch. So Danziger is in Lloyd's cabin and he plants a receipt for a gun. We don't know what it is at the moment, but that's what it is. It's a receipt in with other receipts that Lloyd has kept. A
receipt in Lloyd's name as well, so obviously he's given that name in purchasing the gun.
We then go to the singer Rosanna's cabin. He enters alone and he hides a gun in her closet just before she arrives.
Yep.
And we find out that not only has she had a fling with Lloyd, she appears to be having or had a fling with Danziger.
Yeah, and she's not going to let this one go quite so easily.
No, because there's something in it for her. She's not a very pleasant individual, I don't think.
She seems to be an opportunist, certainly.
We have a clip which outlines her motive and plot.
What are you doing here?
Well, thought you'd be pleased to see me.
I suppose your wife knows you're here? No. Should I call her and invite her down?
Please Let's do.
We could have a little chat, the three of us.
This time, identify yourself. She's been getting these mysterious phone calls ever since our last weekend in Las Vegas.
Has she?
You're sticking it to the wrong guy. I spent 20 years building up my business. And no smart little broad from Pittsburgh is going to take it away from me.
This one is. You're hurting me. Where's the money, Hayden?
You'll get it before we dock in Mazatlan. After, I'm sure you haven't told anyone about us.
Trust me.
Yep, she's blackmailing him. Quite plainly.
I don't think he's going to trust her.
No, I think trust me is the last thing that he's going to be doing. So he punches her in the face.
It's fairly vicious.
Yeah, he's quite aggressive about it, and then he leaves.
She falls in the bed. We go to the pool area, the pool
Poolside,
deck,
yeah.
And Danziger arrives in, I noticed, very high cut shorts. Maybe they were off the style, but they looked as if they were past his belly button.
Yeah, with this sort of high-waisted style. Oh, it's
I'm not,
fashion-wise.
I'm not suggesting I want to see him in
Short shorts.
skimpy little short shorts. He stands by the pool. We then see him, he sniffs from a capsule that he's broken open.
It's, amyl nitrate.
Yeah, we find that later. Before clasping his chest and falling into the pool. Now, I thought that was quite chancy. He stands in public view and breaks open something under his own nose, sniffs it.
Could have easily been seen. Also, why did he do it in the pool? He could have done it at the side of the ship, and he could have disposed of the capsule over the side before collapsing.
Yeah, but it was just very chancy. Either way, he does do it. Beside the pool, he falls in, clasping his chest, and he has to be apparently
hauled out,
rescued. From there, we go to the doctor's office, or the hospital. The
Sick bay, I believe
bay.
it's called, yeah.
Oh, you're a nautical man, are you?
Well, it's the same in Star Trek.
Okay. The doctor says that he has suffered a slight heart attack. Those are the symptoms.
Yeah, and I presume that's what you wanted to hear.
Mm-hmm. And he is confined to a bed with orders to have his pulse and blood pressure monitored.
Every half an hour.
Yes, by a nurse.
He has a wee chat with the nurse. He asks her if he's the only patient, and she explains that it's normally busier on the way back because of Montezuma's revenge.
That itself is another sort of chancy element. What if there were... Well, I suppose he took the chance of doing this on day one. He couldn't have risked doing it any other day because there may have been someone else in the...
No other opportunity, yeah.
From there we go to the lounge at night.
Yep, the girl, Rosanna Wells, is there. She's singing with a band.
Very well-known tune.
Yes.
Filari.
Yes, a well-known, cliched sort of a tune.
And they continue to sing as we see Danziger scheme.
Yeah, we kind of flip between the two shots.
So we go back down to the hospital, and he steals a pair of medical gloves before the nurse arrives with his pills and to monitor him.
Yeah, now obviously he doesn't realise that they keep track of the stock of latex gloves or whatever material they are.
Mm-hmm. And she says that his life signs are all very normal, so his blood pressure and his pulse are fine.
Yep.
And she tells him she'll be back in 30 minutes, and then she returns to smoke a cigarette and read her book in a separate sort of side room.
Yeah, she's not interested in him while it's not time to do the checks.
He then places some pillows under his covers in case she maybe pokes her head round.
That didn't even work when you were 8.
No, never.
It just looks like pillows under a duvet.
The only time that sort of thing worked was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, but that was a mannequin.
Yeah, it's a completely different set of circumstances.
Yeah, not Colombo.
It's not analogous at all.
Well, sort of is. I mean, he was pretending to be sick and didn't want to get caught. Fair enough, he wasn't doing it so he could go and murder someone.
Sure, okay. Anyway, yeah, Danziger sneaks out of the hospital and proceeds below decks where he changes into a uniform.
A waiter's uniform. And he rushes downstairs as we see Rosanna and the band take a break.
Yeah.
And she heads to her cabin, and Lloyd follows.
Like a puppy dog.
Exactly like a puppy dog, to apologise for his behaviour earlier in the day.
He's given short shrift, I would say.
Yes. She's in her cabin now. She starts to get changed, and she is shocked to see Danziger in the mirror as he produces a gun and then uses a pillow to muffle the sound of gunshot as he shoots her in the back.
Yes.
Dead.
Well, he's fortunate that she's dead, because that's not necessarily a killing shot, is it?
Through the back, through the heart it was.
Yeah. I mean, I guess we don't know how good a shot he is. How does a pillow affect trajectory of a bullet? He doesn't stay long to check, does he?
No, but I think he got lucky. It went through her
I
heart.
suppose he could always have shot it again
Yeah.
if he needed to. He draws an L on the mirror in lipstick, which is stupid.
It's a very obvious mistake to make, this, isn't it? She's stone dead,
Yeah.
and he draws this L.
It's crazy. He leaves the cabin and hides the gun in the laundry room, which he had to use the master key to access.
Yeah. To take a step back there, something that sort of bugged me about this plan was that he drew this L. There's no way that Danziger could know that Lloyd would follow her. So he may have stayed on stage or backstage with the band.
He might have had the idea that Lloyd was infatuated with her. She may well have told him that.
Yeah, but you don't know that he's going to follow her downstairs to
That
apologise.
doesn't matter.
Well, he's sort of trying to implicate him by drawing the L on it. So if he's got a watertight alibi because he just stays with the
There's
band...
a costume change though, so he needs to leave where the band were to change his outfit.
Who does?
I think that Columbo talks to them later about everybody having a costume change at that intermission.
Yeah.
So perhaps, again, we've established Danziger's been on this cruise before, he maybe is aware of their habit. Again, yeah, there's an element of risk because he can't definitively know what's going to happen here. But like I said there a second ago, he leaves the cabin and he goes into this, uses the key to access the laundry room, and he hides the gun, and it strikes me as one of these stupid things that you only do when you're framing somebody.
To what?
You plant evidence where it's definitely going to be found.
Yeah.
It's something we've seen it in other episodes. The one that springs to mind is the one with Mickey Spillane, where the gun was left in the corridor, but there's been others as well. And it's sloppy.
He retraces his steps back up to the hospital, and there's some fantastic score here. The music's really sort of pounding intense, and it creates a great atmosphere.
Yeah, he's trying to escape suspicion, so he doesn't want to get spotted because he could be identified. So he passes a different steward on the stairs while carrying a tray.
Yep.
Meanwhile,
We see the band.
they're wondering where Rosanna's gone.
Yes, and perhaps Lloyd as well, because he's not immediately there.
Yeah.
He appears a few moments later.
Danzinger's heading back to the hospital. We kind of flip between the two. Danziger heads back to hospital, and then we see one of the other band members
Ask Lloyd where Rosanna is.
He speaks to Lloyd, and then, having been told that Lloyd doesn't know, he heads down to Rosanna's room,
Yes.
traps the door, and then leaves when he gets no answer.
We then see the nurse go back to check on Danziger.
Yeah, we don't know if he's made it. It's a moment of drama, but he's there.
He has, he's made it back. That reminded me of the most crucial match.
Yes, when the
Culp.
crucial game, the one that had Dean Stockwell in it before.
Yes. We didn't know if
Yes.
Robert Culp got back after
At half time.
from the ice cream.
That's it.
Yeah. He appeared from the bathroom.
Now, here's another flaw in his plan. The guy who's meant to be lying in his bed for half an hour has just run up a set of steps before he gets his blood pressure checked and his heart rate tested.
Well, that's one of the main clues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why did he not think of that?
Well, he would not have known when he's plotting this. He doesn't know that he's going to be have his heart checked every half hour.
I suppose.
You know, you just think that you would be
Yeah.
in bed, recuperating. We then go to outside Columbo's cabin, and Purser Watkins knocks Columbo's door, and Columbo appears a bit bedraggled and immediately apologises for his wife's behaviour. So she's obviously had a few drinks, or
Well, he assumes she has. I don't
Yeah.
think he's been there, yeah.
the person purporting to be Mrs. Columbo, it could have been anything. He might have hired her, as you say, brought her
I
along,
didn't
and
say
she's a
that.
bit of a party
I
girl.
didn't say he hired her. That's a completely different insinuation.
Maybe not.
Yeah, anyway, he is worried that his wife's done something embarrassing, but he's told it's not about that. There's something else.
And they go to Rosanna's cabin.
They do.
And Columbo is shocked to see the body. I thought for a second when he went over to inspect it, he was going to make one of his usual comments about how beautiful she looked.
Yes, the beautiful always die young.
Yeah. But she's told that she must have been followed back here at the interval. She was on stage and she's come back here to have a change. So that person must have followed her back, although he could have been waiting for her.
Yeah, they don't know anything, they're just guessing.
Columbo finds out that they don't have any facilities They don't have any forensic facilities on board.
Not only that, but they want to pretend this hasn't happened so that the folk don't get upset.
Yeah, the captain's unhappy. He doesn't want to disrupt the guest, but again, I'm sorry, murder's been committed on board.
Do you think if you were a guest, you'd want to know there was a murderer on board rather than saying, let's just not tell anyone?
Exactly. That's an odd attitude.
Because nobody's left the boat.
No? Oh, there's a for all we know, this is a killer who's bumped a serial killer.
Could easily be.
Colombo wants photographs taken, so you get some, onboard photographer to come along and take some snaps off the crime scene.
Yeah. Colombo decides he's not feeling so great and he needs to go to the hospital.
Yeah, but before that, we see him inspect a feather from the pillow. I think he puts it in his pocket. And at that point, he's nearly sick. He goes to the toilet, I think, the restroom, the bathroom.
Yeah, says it's a false alarm.
Artie confirms that all the musicians were on a break when it happened, just after 11 o'clock. And Colombo suggests that it may have been someone who knew the routines of the ship and the band.
That would make sense.
He then notes the L on the mirror, and he assumes that burglary was not the motive as he finds some jewels.
Yeah, he's always very quick to rule out burglary in these cases.
Yeah.
If anything of value is left, it's not burglary.
Mm-hmm. But you have to sometimes imagine that perhaps they were there for one or two particular things, It might have been a large diamond ring.
They also always rule out the possibility of a random encounter with a homicidal maniac.
Yeah.
Who had no motive, who had no prior inclination to kill this person.
And just like to take cruise ships.
Maybe it's just someone who was, like you said, he could just be a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
This like to kill people.
Okay. What was Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan, all set on a
cruise ship.
It's not a cruise ship, it's on a ship on his way to... Yeah. Anyway.
There you go. Columbo would have struggled with that one, maybe.
He would have. So Colombo then says he's actually feeling quite unwell and he wants to go off to the hospital, but not by the elevator.
So I'm just thinking of Colombo, it's the guy in the hockey mask.
We get to the hospital.
Yes, the nurse answers the door and Colombo asks for some medication for his nausea.
Yeah, he's feeling rather rubbery.
It's a very sort of descriptive phrase.
Yeah. As he waits for his medication, he notices a feather on the hospital floor.
What are the odds?
Small, but a clue nonetheless.
There you go. This is going to break the case wide open.
Mm-hmm. It's one of these things that on its own means nothing, won't stand up in a court of law.
It makes proof. The connection, though, it puts him in the right direction.
It does. So he's given his medicine and he asks the nurse about her whereabouts when she's on duty. And she says that someone is always there in the sick bay for the patients. And Colombo admits that he heard about Danziger's heart attack.
Yeah. I made a note at this point that the nurse may well be the world's least observant person.
Why?
Folks sneak in and out behind her and there are all sorts of events going on. There's a body being brought in and she really doesn't have a clue what's going on.
She wants to smoke her fag and read her book.
Pretty much.
So Colombo inspects the feathers as the body is brought in and then discreetly slides into Danziger's room and he IDs himself.
Yeah.
But then the doctor comes in and tells Colombo to leave, that this is a sick man and you can't be bothering him.
Reminds you a bit of Mayfield stopping him from speaking to...
Yes, the more senior doctor.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. The doctor then gives Colombo the bullet which was used, and it's from a 38. The doctor also confirms that death would be near instantaneous.
Which makes the lipstick L a bit more curious, so they have a wee chat about that as well.
Colombo says that they should be looking for someone who knew her with the initial L. So he's following, or appears to be following, the obvious lead at this moment, but I think suspicions that already have started in his...
Yeah, I think even though he's not convinced by this, he's going to follow it because he obviously can gain information from following the clues.
Mm-hmm. Well,
even if he doesn't believe
of course, they all lead to the same place. If he believes it's a setup, then by following the clue...
It'll unravel the setup, yeah. The captain at this point mentions that Rosanna had a row with Lloyd, which begins with L.
Yes.
Some good deduction there.
And Colombo suggests that they search the crew. Captain's not too happy, but he's a fairly efficient.
Yeah, I think the captain wants this resolved, so he's prepared to take on some degree of advice, but he wants it done discreetly and in his way to a certain extent.
We're back to the lounge, and Artie thinks that it is ridiculous to suspect Lloyd. He was a nice guy, but he does go to retrieve him for Colombo.
Yep. Harrington is stunned. Lloyd Harrington is stunned to hear that Rosanna's dead. Or he appears plausibly stunned anyway.
Yes. Well, he is stunned, because he didn't kill her.
That's true.
The captain also confirms that the hospital doors open from the inside, but they swing shut and are locked when you leave.
Yeah.
Which is important as well. Keys are required here. You can't walk in and out. We then go to Lloyd's cabin. And the captain is telling Lloyd in no uncertain terms that he is a suspect.
Yeah. They're also testing Lloyd for powder burns in his hands, and they're not finding anything.
And this is fantastic. Columbo has a magnifying glass. Obviously,
Old school,
and a nod to the great Sherlock Holmes. It's
Perhaps,
brilliant to see him with a magnifying glass in hand. And with this magnifying glass, Columbo yet confirms that he can't find any powder deposits on Lloyd's hands. So perhaps he wore gloves.
Yeah.
They're going to search the place.
The captain wants to confine Lloyd to his quarters immediately.
But this is interesting. So they step outside Lloyd's cabin, the captain and Columbo. And as you say, the captain wants to detain Lloyd. Columbo's not convinced or happy because they've got no evidence, no reason to detain him. But what I thought was risky. They suspect that Lloyd may have these gloves on him or in his cabin.
Yeah.
But they step outside. Now, he could have hidden them on his person or somewhere else.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have left him on his own. At the very least, he could have swallowed them.
That would be ambitious.
If you're about to be proven to be a murderer, you might want to try and swallow a very thin rubber glove.
Sure.
You may get it inside you some other way.
Who knows? It's all plausible.
Point is, if you have a suspect and you think that in that room he may have evidence of murder, you don't leave him on his own.
Yeah. Columbo makes a note, actually, that there's not any evidence against Lloyd at this stage.
Mm-hmm.
The captain's not happy.
No. From Lloyd's cabin, we quickly head to the lounge for a short scene here.
Yeah, this entire scene is simply to set up a rather pointless endeavour near the end of the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose we need to fill our 90-odd minute quota.
Well, why do you think it's pointless?
Well, I can maybe explain that when we get to the later one.
Okay. We see a stage magician performing a trick, and he's using a 38 revolver.
Yeah.
We then go to the corridors of the ship, and Columbo is timing a journey from the lounge to Rosanna's cabin.
We've seen Columbo timing things a couple of times before.
The double shock springs to mind.
And Candidate for Crime.
Mm-hmm. It took him 8 minutes, and that apparently is the quickest route.
Yeah, it's not, but he thinks it is.
He asks this crew member, is this the quickest? And he says, oh yeah, definitely. But we come to find out it's not. I mean, why would this crew member not know?
Well, because the crew member maybe thinks he's asking for a route he can use in the future. He maybe doesn't realise it's part of an investigation.
Sure, okay. We're
But
told that they're an elevator, but at the interval,
it might not be as quick.
it probably wouldn't be because people would be queuing and waiting to use it. Purser Watkins then appears and he hands over the gun receipt they found within Lloyd's cabin.
How convenient.
And Columbo looks confused. It's falling too easily into place.
This is similar to what I said about the gun being in the laundry room. It's evidence that you would never leave if you did the crime yourself.
Yeah.
So it's obviously a plant.
From there we go to the hospital again, and we see Danziger hide gloves in his pocket just before Columbo appears. And he admits to Columbo that he knows about the murder. We have a clip of the next sort of conversation he has with him.
Yeah.
Lieutenant, I'm curious. That you're investigating her death. I wouldn't think that you'd have authority out here.
I don't. No, I'm just helping out temporarily.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, if there's anything that I can do...
Well, actually, sir, you can. I was going to ask you. I understand that some of these people are guests of yours here on the cruise. Some kind of used car salesman or something like that.
You make used car salesmen sound like some kind of disease.
No offense intended, no. It's just that, well, a murder has been committed here on the boat, and the captain has unofficially asked me to look into it until we reach Mexico. And, well, I just didn't want to disturb your guess any more than I had to.
We don't think that one of them shot the girl.
I don't know anything at this point. But I thought you could help me out as far as your guests are concerned, rather than me bothering them.
I got the suspicion during this scene that Columbo was uneasy with Danziger. But I think that follows from the feather and the fact he was the only patient.
Oh yeah. I think that scene there, that clip, identifies two key moments in the episode. The first is Danziger questioning Columbo's authority.
Yeah.
It's a sort of suspicious thing to do. You know, your average person wouldn't question that.
Or else they wouldn't have a reason to.
No. And also shows that Columbo, as is his wont, has found a reason to work with or bring a suspect
Close to him. Yeah.
He's providing an explanation as to why he will be sniffing around. So we already know that Columbo's got a target.
Yeah.
We then see Danziger on the deck throw the gloves overboard.
He's managed to escape from that quandary.
Mm-hmm. Back to the laundry room, and the purser shows the captain the gun that has been discovered. So they've found the murder weapon now. And we go to the captain's wheelhouse.
Just before that, in the laundry room, the captain and the purser show up in their shorts, which they weren't wearing earlier.
Yeah?
Maybe it's getting a bit warm.
Well, they're starting to move down towards...
Yeah, Mexico way.
Yeah. Just on that, as I mentioned, that it was a real cruise. And it was a journey from San Francisco to Puerto Vallarta in Mexico.
There you go.
So...
Probably was getting warmer then.
I thought so, yeah.
They obviously would have had a limited amount of time for retakes and stuff like that. They must have been fairly efficient.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, as I said, we're in the captain's wheelhouse. And the captain shows Columbo the gun, which he assures him has no prints from the crew.
Yeah, there's a problem though, because they've got a pencil down the barrel of the gun, and Columbo thinks that's going to make some problems for him.
Yeah. We then see Columbo use some very old school field techniques to look for prints using sort of pencil shavings.
Well, it's the graphite. He takes away the wood with a knife of some kind, and then he kind of shaves the graphite from the inside.
And he requests a mattress to be brought up.
Yep, and paper.
Mm-hmm. Danziger then arrives, and the captain asks him, as you would, to leave. I mean, you can't just walk into the wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But Columbo tells him that he has asked for his assistance in the case. And now with his trusty magnifying glass again, Columbo determines that there are no prints on the gun.
Yep.
Columbo then confirms to Danziger that he has doubts over Lloyd's guilt.
Yep, Danziger queries that.
He says, why did he keep a receipt? That's the question that's bothering him.
Well, Columbo's initial response is that it's going to be really unlikely you'd keep the receipt for a gun you then shoot somebody with.
And Danziger falls into the trope trap.
Yes, he wants to know too much, or he has too much of an explanation.
Yes, that's it. He tries to solve the problem for Columbo. And he says that perhaps he didn't know what he was going to do with the gun when he bought it, which I think is perfectly reasonable. I don't think that a murderer, or in most cases, you go out to buy a gun to kill. You buy a gun, you may have had it around, maybe for self-defence or whatever, and then you use it. I think it'd be very stupid actually to go out, buy a gun in your own name with the sole purpose of killing someone.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I think that's a reasonable explanation, but Columbo states that people usually know what they're buying it for, but I disagree with that.
Yeah.
We move outside onto the deck, and we have the mattress.
Yep. Columbo's not wanting to fire the gun himself. He says he's a bad shot. He doesn't like guns.
Yeah. I think, again, I don't believe that for a second, that that's the reason why. I mean, he may well be a bad shot, but I think that Columbo just might like to see Glans. He's giving him the murder weapon, and he suspects he's already used it. Just how, what's his reaction going to be when given the murder weapon, and how comfortable is he holding a gun? So I think that's a subtle way of finding out.
What he's doing here is he's trying to get a bullet to match up to the one they took from the body.
Yeah, so
to get the markings.
Yeah, Danziger shoots into the mattress, they remove the bullet and they compare the bullet from the one they found in the body.
Yeah.
And Colombo believes that they are from the same gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not a ballistics check, but he's
confident enough to follow that lead.
But Danzinger's still pushing on Harrington, and this is what we just talked about. It's really suspicious when he's trying to push this theory. We've got our killer. We know who it is. You know who it is.
He does. He insists that Lloyd is the obvious killer.
Yeah.
And as you rightly said, he overdoes it. Why would you do this? If you're a totally innocent, third party, nothing.
Well, you just wouldn't. It's only the killers that do this.
Mm-hmm. And Colombo knows this. So, again, at this point, Colombo knows who the killer is. It's just a case of can he get the proof?
Yeah, and well, the other thing that Colombo then learns in this scene is that there's a crew stairway, which changes everything.
Mm-hmm. But as we said, Colombo's not convinced with Danzinger's appeals, and he asks the captain to check passengers like Danziger who have made the trip before.
Yeah.
And I think this, we've discussed, is to do with timings.
Routines and things like that, yeah.
And then, as you say, the captain reveals that they moved the body via the crew stairway. And Colombo, I think he's fairly happy with this revelation.
Yeah, you can see the light bulb pinging above his head at this point.
The captain, you recognise the face?
It's a familiar sort of a face.
Is that all?
I would say so.
Fairly big star, but perhaps back in the 60s and the 70s as opposed to today. It was obviously Patrick McNee, born in 1922 in London. He became a US citizen in 1959. Most famous for playing John Steed in The Avengers, the New Avengers. The fairly, the 90s atrocious Avengers movie.
This is the ones with Emma Peel, not the ones with Hulk and Iron Man.
That's correct.
Okay.
Battlestar Galactica, A View to a Kill, the James Bond movie.
There you go.
And something called Super Force. Not seen it myself.
Don't know that one.
Quite an interesting background and character. He grew up in a very wealthy family, and he was then thrown out of Eton for bookmaking during whilst he was there at school.
I like that.
His father apparently sort of squandered the family fortune on
fees for eating.
He liked his drink and other practices.
Okay.
Blew the fortune. So Patrick went to live with his mother and his mother's female companion.
Okay.
Which again, back in the day, would have been fairly
scandalous.
Very scandalous.
Ooh, not now.
Not now. And apparently he wore kilts up until the age of 11 as his daily dress.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, but
everyone in Scotland does.
I only wear kilts on Tuesday, Friday, Saturday, and Wednesdays, and the occasional bank holiday Monday, Thursday. Yeah. Okay.
We're in a kilt right now.
I can see. Unfortunately.
Well,
sitting across from me, Ian.
That's it.
And it's warm. Anyway, he retired in 2003 due to arthritis, but apparently still does some sort of voiceover work now and again.
Okay, well, that's a good long career.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be something juicy for the show notes.
Mm-hmm.
Got some feedback a couple of weeks ago about one of my show note links.
Was that the porpoise?
Yeah, Dick Van Dyke link. I linked to an article about him being rescued from certain death by a school of porpoises.
Very Mary Poppins-esque, isn't it?
Yeah, I pictured him standing on his surfboard being wished to shore.
We move back onto the deck and we see Danziger playing some sort of nautical tossing game.
Hoopla of some kind.
Mm-hmm. Colombo has a try and throws the hoop directly into the ocean.
That was predictable.
Yeah. Colombo remarks on Danziger's quick recovery from his supposed heart attack, and he claims that his system was just taking a reaction to the change of pace and that he's fine now. And he invites Colombo and the wife for cocktails in his cabin. He's
also got some questions for Colombo.
Yes, he wants to know how Colombo knew that he himself was a previous passenger and why he is checking previous passengers out.
And Colombo's got answers for these.
Can you remember what they are?
Yes, he remembers, or he knows that Danziger has been on the cruise before because he remembers the captain calling him by name.
Mm-hmm.
And he's looking for repeat travellers because, as we've discussed, they would know the band's schedule.
Yes.
And he asks if anyone in Danzinger's group has anyone who's, their name beginning with L, but he's not really interested in that, I don't believe.
No. But Danziger resents this accusation that his guests may be involved, or he pretends to resent this.
Yeah, and Colombo explains it's because of the master key being critical, and he knows all about how auto dealers cut keys.
Yeah, so the gun was found in a locked laundry room. So someone it would either have to be someone with access to the set of keys or a master key.
Yeah, and this is part of the plot that's wrong. I mentioned it at the time, he put this gun in a locked laundry room. He didn't have to frame him as someone with a key.
No.
He could easily have set it up ambiguously where he could have followed, Lloyd could have followed her down, followed her into the room. There was no part of the story that required Lloyd to have a key.
No.
Until he put the gun in the laundry room.
He should have disposed of the gun just over the side. That's what you would expect him to have.
Absolutely.
With the gloves.
Yes.
Okay.
But then he had to get back to the hospital, so he couldn't.
Yeah, but he wouldn't have been searched. He didn't have to. He could have brought it back into the hospital with him.
That's chancy.
Yeah. So, Colombo suspects, apparently, he tells Danziger that he suspects his guess because these people are auto dealers, and in their day-to-day work, they often have to use a Curtis clipper to make duplicate keys.
Yeah.
Danziger then asks about the receipts that were found, and Colombo says that he thinks they were planted. We have a clip.
Besides, didn't you say that Harrington's gun was the murder weapon?
But he denies owning it, sir.
Naturally. What about the receipt in his room?
I have to feel that somebody planted that, sir. And it could have been the perpetrator.
Lieutenant, I would say that falls in the area of speculation.
I don't think so, sir. No, I looked at those receipts very carefully. I have them right here. Care to sit down? Saxophone repair, lead sheets, piano tuning, hotel, restaurant. All these receipts have one thing in common. They represent tax deductions, with one single exception. The receipt for the gun. He can't deduct that. He can deduct all these. So we know why he saved these. I'll tell you, sir, for the life of me, I can't understand why he saved this one.
I see your point.
Yeah, it's apparent that Columbo is closing in here, and the more that Danziger speaks, the more he's getting himself into trouble.
Colombo also has an issue with the gun itself. Why was it not disposed of over the side of the boat?
Yeah, and
ship.
The answer actually hangs Danziger, essentially. He's the only person who wouldn't have had a chance to dispose of it, because he's the guy who had to get back to the hospital bed.
I'm not sure if I agree with that.
No?
Well, his answer is that ships are bigger places than people think. So you're not always just a few metres from overboard.
I mean, Danziger's got his theory, and the fact he's even got a theory is a problem for me. Because
having a theory is a problem. But I think a theory is sound. If
Lloyd had to get back to the band.
Yeah, he wouldn't be anywhere near the sort of the outer areas of the boat. He's internally moving up and down in a very short period of time.
But that's a contradiction, because then where are the gloves if he's never been anywhere near an area to dispose?
Yeah, that's
what's going to get him into trouble.
That's a contradiction that gets him in trouble. Colombo also finds out because he asks that, or he suggests that he could have thrown the gun out of the porthole in the cabin.
Yeah.
And Danziger sort of laughs at him.
Yeah, they're not real.
They're not
windows.
Real. Yeah, you couldn't just be opening up windows at that level.
No.
Not safe at all, is it?
Sometimes they'll be below the level of the sea, I would imagine. Danziger goes to leave. He says he's going to get onto this L theory.
Yeah, he leaves with a sort of a spring in his step. He thinks he's answered the questions. He leaves in triumph.
Colombo follows and puts that point I've just made about the gloves to him.
Yeah. Yeah, and Colombo has another issue which is related to your points with the gloves. He asks why there were no prints on the gun.
Yeah.
And Danziger says he wore gloves.
Yeah.
And then Colombo says, so why were the gloves not with the gun?
Yep, or anywhere else.
But, in fairness, Danziger has
another theory.
Yeah, now, the fact he's got another theory is a problem, but the theory itself is sound.
At this stage, it's sound.
Everyone is assuming that gloves were involved, but you could have simply used no gloves and then wiped down the murder weapon with a towel afterwards.
Could have done.
So
It's in a laundry room full of towels.
again, I think that's a fairly logical, but too logical an explanation.
He doesn't need to be giving explanations. Columbo's back to timing things.
Yes, we're back to the hospital, and he times the journey from the hospital to Rosanna's cabin via the crew stairway this time.
Yeah.
And again, there's brilliant, fantastic, tension-creating score here as he makes this journey. And on return, he asks for his pulse and pressure to be checked by the nurse, and they are confirmed to be up, to be high.
Yeah.
The doctor also confirms that Danziger had trunks on when he was brought in, no clothes with him.
Yeah.
And Colombo asks them to check the quantity of gloves that they should have in their cabinet.
Yeah, they find there's a pair missing, but the doctor thinks this points to Harrington more than anyone else.
Because
He's diabetic and he's in there every day.
so he would have had access to
And they would know about where
opportunity.
they were, yeah.
We go back to Lloyd's cabin.
Yeah, so Columbo has some information.
Yes. Lloyd claims that this is a setup.
Yeah, but Columbo can place him in Las Vegas at the time the gun was purchased.
Yeah. He says he didn't buy this gun in Vegas, as the receipt would suggest. Columbo asks if Rosanna was involved with another man, and Lloyd, he thinks so, but he doesn't know who. He's shown a picture by Columbo of Danziger, but he says that he doesn't recognise him. And I think that this inability or unwillingness to recognise him works in his favour.
Yep.
Because if you were trying
A
to set
genuine
someone
reaction,
up,
yeah.
it's obviously a genuine reaction here.
He indicates that Rosanna spent most of the previous cruise in her cabin.
Apparently she had a virus.
Yeah. And he asks Columbo if this guy in the photo is who he thinks the killer was.
I like this. Columbo says yes,
Yeah.
but don't say anything. I haven't gotten him yet.
Yeah.
And it's not often we hear Columbo confide in a third party.
No, Requiem comes to mind where he told his entire process.
Yes, but this is him telling the other
Suspect, yeah.
primary suspect other than in Columbo's head.
Yeah.
We go back onto the deck, and Columbo is speaking with Mrs. Danziger.
Yeah.
And this is where we heard his fairly inappropriate patter at
Yeah,
the top,
at
of,
the
the
top of the show, yeah.
about her weight and how she doesn't look as if she was on a diet, etc.
He's probably comparing her to his own wife, who he has commented on less than flatteringly
Yeah.
in the past.
He wouldn't let her get too thin.
No.
She tells him that Danziger is generally in good health, apart from yesterday, and also that she doesn't gamble or go to Vegas with him. He goes alone.
Yeah.
And then we have quite an odd scene where she misunderstands Colombo's suspicion,
Right.
but this in itself is a useful piece of information. We have a clip.
Okay.
You're a very broad-minded woman. Letting your husband run off alone like that.
Wrong.
You're not broad-minded.
No. I wouldn't want to be. Not where it counts, not about men. Especially my husband.
You're very frank.
Very shrewd, too.
Ah, go on. You're not shrewd.
I'm on to you.
I beg your pardon?
I'm an older woman with lots of money. Most of my friends think that Hayden married me for it. So do you. They're wrong, and you're wrong, too. We have something together. That's why we married. As long as we have it, then we'll stay married. It's very satisfying feeling like a woman. Hayden hasn't disappointed me yet. If he ever does, God help him.
Yeah, that's quite a clear statement there from Mrs. Danziger. There's actually a one more thing that follows this.
Which is?
Columbo wants to know the last time Hayden Danziger was in Vegas.
Mhm.
He's told us the previous weekend,
Yeah.
which is critical, because that times it with the receipt for the gun.
Getting back to that clip, I think that although Mrs. Danziger misunderstood Colombo's suspicion, it's important because it provides more support to the motive.
Yeah.
So he could not. She had money. Danziger could not afford for his wife to find out about the affair.
Yes.
Mrs. Danziger was played by Jane Greer. She died in 2001, age 76. She's got a star on the Walk of Fame, known for Out of the Past, The Big Steal, Falcon Crest, and Twin Peaks. Howard Hughes, in fact, took a liking to her and helped to start her career.
Okay.
Gave her a leg up, introduced her to different things, so to speak, yeah.
Casting couch.
Well, not quite, but he kept her a prisoner for nearly 2 months.
It's unfortunate.
Yeah, I mean, he was a known recluse and
Right.
obviously very mentally unwell. But yeah, she was meant to have been apparently a near prisoner for 2 months until she managed to evade his overprotective or overbearing, to say the least, clutches.
There you go.
So, yeah, interesting person. Jane Greer, not necessarily. Well, Howard Hughes was interesting as well.
Interesting doesn't mean lovely.
No.
Obviously.
We go to the dining room next, and Colombo's speaking to the doctor.
Yeah, it's a fairly deserted scene at this point, and he's asking about ways to fake a heart attack. And the doctor, not being stupid, knows what he's talking about.
What does he confirm?
He confirms it's possible. He gives a couple of possible ways of doing it, and the one that catches Columbo's imagination, as I mentioned earlier in the show, is amyl nitrate, where you would sniff this substance and it would give you the symptoms of a heart attack, if not the actual risk.
Yep. Just quickly, the Doctor was played by Robert Douglas. He died in 1999, aged 89. He acted, but also done a lot of directing work, and he directed 1 episode of Colombo, not this one. He also directed Fame, Beretta, Cannon, Adam 12, and 12 O'Clock High.
There you go.
We go next to the poolside.
Yeah, Columbo's obviously looking for something here.
He investigates the pump, and he finds broken capsules.
Critical evidence that should not have been left
No.
to chance.
And we see Danziger look on worriedly.
Yeah.
Back
He might be worried.
yeah, back to the hospital next. Colombo works out that Danziger could have slipped out, and the captain's there.
He's not happy.
He asks him to stop bothering Danziger and his guests.
Yeah, obviously Danziger spending a lot of money, and is a repeat visitor, so they don't want to upset him.
No. Colombo shows him, the captain that is, Danzinger's charts, which shows a massive spike in his vital signs around 11:30 p.m.
To the captain's credit, though, he takes this on board. He's convinced by the medical evidence. He's not, stubbornly sticking to his position.
Yeah, I think he is firm but fair.
Yeah.
And Colombo admits that he believes that the spike in his signs were caused by him being involved or him committing the murder. And the captain agrees it is plausible.
Yep.
Colombo then states that, with regards to the gun, paperwork could have been faked because photographic ID was not required.
That's it.
And someone in his position would be more than capable of getting some fake documents made up.
No problem at all.
Colombo then produces the capsules that he's
That's
found.
the clincher.
And both the doctor and the captain seem shocked at the revelation, and we feel that they do believe Colombo's theory.
Yeah.
Where do we go next?
Go back to the lounge. There's a fancy dress parade going through, which was my favourite moment of the whole episode.
The band's playing some Mexican music, and Colombo, what's he wearing?
He's wearing a brown floral shirt.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's almost as if he said, well, I need to be casual here, so I'll wear this floral shirt, but I'm not going to go mental and have a garish red and green and
keep it brown.
Keep it brown like my normal colours. So he's sort of half getting into the swing of it, isn't he?
Yeah. You can only wear what he's got, I suppose.
Yeah. Colombo speaks with Danziger and asks if he saw Lloyd near the hospital with gloves on. Danziger says he didn't see him, and Colombo says, too bad. Surgical gloves are missing from the hospital, and if they can only find these gloves, they would catch the musician. They would have him bang to rights.
Yeah.
And then Colombo applies some pressure to Danziger. He says that, it's in his nature. If he can't resolve this, if he doesn't get it wrapped up, he's a type.
He's never going to let it slip.
Never let it slip. He's got to keep looking for evidence. So he's forcing Danziger to
act. Well,
act.
this is Columbo's usual thing of, pushing people's buttons and seeing if he can get them to do what he wants them to do, or see what they do.
Yeah. So he plants this seed. He needs to find gloves with powder burns on them.
Yeah, and then Danziger does the stupidest thing ever.
Yeah, what does he do?
Well, he steals more gloves. He's just been told they know how many pairs of gloves there are. So he steals an extra pair, which makes no sense. It undermines everything. And I talked earlier about this stupid subplot or moment that was set up by the trick with the gun. Because he steals that magician's gun.
No, I don't, see, that's what I don't understand why you think that's stupid. Because
why would he steal more gloves when he knows they're
no,
counted?
not that. The gun. He needs to
the
fire a gun.
Yeah, it's just because it's all connected.
Yeah. Okay.
The stealing of more gloves is what makes the whole thing stupid because they're counted.
Yeah, that's stupid because he knows they have been counted. Yeah.
There's no way that's going to be seen as anything other than another pair of gloves got stolen.
Although I'm just thinking back, do we know that Danziger knows the gloves were counted?
Yeah, Columbus just told him at the end of that previous scene. They know there's a pair of gloves missing.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose.
So I don't understand. He's obviously desperate at this stage.
Yeah. So he goes to the magician's prop case and he steals the 38 revolver.
Yeah, he goes down.
A little bit of trivia on that one, Ian. The name on it was a Curtis Cradell. That was the name that was displayed in the front of the prop case,
right?
Trunk, and that's the actor's real name.
Ah, there you go.
Yep. So yeah, he steals this gun, goes to the engine room, and fires a shot whilst wearing the gloves in order to get the powder burns onto it. He then plants the gloves in a fire hose.
Knowing there's going to be a fire drill later, presumably.
Mm-hmm.
He then presumably returns the gun, but we don't see that.
No.
We get an exterior shot of the crews approaching land.
Mm-hmm. As the fire drill takes place.
Yeah, so obviously time's running out now, because once we get to Mexico, the Mexican police are coming in and they're taking over.
Yes. The purser conveniently walks by a crew member who is unravelling the hose and spots the gloves. That is very chancy. If he hadn't been walking by there, the rest of the crew weren't privy to the importance of these
they might not have
gloves.
noticed.
They'd have been picked up, thrown away. The chances of that actually happening were minute.
Yeah.
Anyway, the gloves are found.
Yeah, and they take him to the bridge or the wheelhouse.
And Columbo is happily humming This Old Man as he inspects the gloves with the captain as Danziger arrives.
Yeah, Danzinger's pretty screwed at this point.
But he thinks he's okay because his plans apparently fall into place.
Yeah, and then Columbo turns the gloves inside out.
Columbo confirms with Danziger that if they find powder burns, it's going to prove that there was a premeditated murder.
Yes.
And Danziger agrees.
He's essentially getting Danziger to sign up for his own death warrant here.
He then uses the pencil technique and he says he's after something other than powder marks. Now must be the first time that Danziger gets worried.
Yeah.
Because he thinks he's looking for this powder mark, but he's not.
No.
Columbo tells him that surgical gloves apparently retain fingerprints and that the ones on the gloves that they've found are not Lloyd's. Now, do we know if this is correct or not? Can anyone help us? Do surgical gloves retain fingerprints? Is this just made up for the show?
Well, I don't see why they wouldn't.
Well,
you're still touching them on the inside.
Okay.
Well, maybe they do, maybe they don't. I suspect there's no reason to doubt this.
Okay. He asks Danziger to provide his fingerprints.
Yeah, he's not going to do that.
He tries to wriggle for a moment to come up with some sort of nonsense, but yeah, he's in trouble. We have a clip of him conceding defeat.
A very revealing clip, yeah.
Lieutenant, suppose I told you that I deliberately placed those gloves in the fire hose.
You, sir?
Why in the world would you do a thing like that?
Yes, sir. Why would you do a thing like that?
But there were powder marks on those gloves. Doesn't that mean that they were used when a gun was fired?
Yes, sir, it does. That would mean that you would have had to have found the gun, gone someplace where a shot couldn't be heard, fired the gun, taken the gloves and hid them under a fire hose. For what reason?
How did you find out?
This feather, sir. I found it in the corridor of the hospital.
That's it. He's essentially... He quits quite easily, actually. He's defiant to a point and then he just folds.
The feather did it.
Yeah, but he's like, well, what if I told you I did it deliberately? And then...
I think he's... Yeah.
He didn't... I mean, the natural follow through to that would be to help you conclude your investigation. I thought that was helping.
But I think that's more his brain's spinning, isn't it?
Yeah.
He realises, oh God, this is... I can't get out of this one. There's no plausible explanation here.
Yeah.
I'm beat.
That's it.
So, there we have it.
That's it. Well, there was one more scene.
Oh, yeah.
But I think they realised the episode was a minute or two shorter than it needed to be because they added this stupid scene on the end that I could not stand.
Really? Okay, describe it.
Well, you've got your big conclusion. You've got the way your episode always ends on the gotcha, and then they add in Columbo. Oh, yeah, he solved it. He's cheery again. He's lost his wife. Oh, and he can't tell between a boat and a ship.
Yeah, I quite liked it, I must admit. I think it does always normally end in a gotcha, but I think because of the significance of Mrs. Colombo being there,
yeah, we have to mention that.
We have to mention that.
I liked the episode. It was kind of a lighter episode to a certain extent. It wasn't as dark and foreboding as some of them. Mm-hmm. The note I made was it was probably better Sunday morning viewing than Thursday night viewing. Yeah. I reckon if you watched this at night, you might not have enjoyed it as much as you would in a more relaxed time.
It was a fun episode.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. We haven't mentioned Hayden Danziger as yet.
Well, we've mentioned Hayden Danziger, but not so much about his portrayer.
Robert Vaughn.
Yes.
You know Robert Vaughn, don't you?
I know him primarily from Hustle, which I love.
Sure. Born in 1932, this is his first of 2 Columbo episodes.
Ooh.
Most famous, not for Hustle, most famously known as playing Napoleon Solo in The Man from U.N.C.L.E. TV show, alongside fellow Glaswegian David Mccallum.
Fellow Glaswegian?
Well, for us, for me.
Okay.
Yeah. Dave McCallum now is on the show NCIS.
NCIS, yep.
Yep. He was also a huge movie star, Robert Vaughn.
Yeah.
He was in The Magnificent Seven, the movie and the TV show, which span off from it. The Towering Inferno, Superman 3 with Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
The A-Team, The Protectors, Hustle, as you rightly say. He was in an episode of Mike Hammer.
Well, yeah, we go talk about Spillane in this episode, actually.
Diagnosis Murder.
Dick Van Dyke.
Murder, She Wrote, and he was also in Britain's favourite soap opera, Coronation Street.
Interestingly, playing the love interest of Stephanie Cole, who starred in one of my favourite sitcoms of the 90s, Waiting for God.
Yeah. So, yeah, well-known Hollywood legend.
Yeah. And grifter.
Still going strong.
Yep.
A little bit of production info before we do the summary.
Sure. First episode of 1975.
Yes. Big break. The previous... This one was broadcast first on the 9th of February 1975. The previous episode had been towards the end of October 1974.
So it's
3 or 4
not a new thing to split seasons into 2.
No, 4 months or so. Directed by Ben Gazzara. Again, we've spoken about him before.
We have.
The teleplay was by William Driscoll. He died in 2006, aged 76. It was the first of 3 Columbo episodes, all of them being from 1975, but not this season.
Sure, because you get the first half of season 5.
He'd also directed Maverick, The $6 Million Man, and Highway Patrol. Okay,
so shall we go back over the critical moments of Troubled Waters?
Okay, motive.
Blackmailed, so to get out of the blackmail.
Yep. Clues. I'll go through them, tell me if I miss any.
Okay.
Again, no particular order here. The feather. The instantaneous death and the L lipstick sign. The timings. So someone who knew about the timings. The discovery of the crew stairway. The increased heart rate. The receipts. The fact that he questioned Columbo's authority. The fact that Danziger was alone in Vegas. The discovery of the capsules and the amyl nitrate.
We've got the gun in the laundry room.
The
locked laundry room as well.
Yeah.
You've got the missing gloves and then the sudden appearance of gloves at the last minute as well.
Of course.
Yeah. The gotcha, I thought, was solid enough. I think he wanted to fight it, but he just ran out of ideas.
If the fingerprints are correct, then we've got fingerprints on these gloves, so that's pretty strong.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't even need to be correct. He just has to convince Danziger that it's correct.
Yeah, but
he folds.
Yes, But again, this has to be as we.
To stand up in court.
Yeah, he could change his mind. So if fingerprints are on that, then it's hard for him to talk his way out of that one.
Very hard. Well, the amyl nitrate as well, I think. There's a lot of evidence that's going to be hard to sugar out of, I think.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's us for this week then, Ian.
What are we doing next week?
We're doing Playback.
Playback. Okay, so we're getting towards the end of season 4. The viewers will be getting excited about their treat that we've promised them.
Don't overdo it, Ian. It's not that big a treat.
They're going to love it.
They're not. Well,
unless they're waiting for the first episode of season 5, in which case they're going to be very upset having to wait an extra week.
Okay, I think that's us. Just time to say thanks for everyone for listening, and we shall see you all next week.
Cheerio.
You have been listening to the Colombo podcast from Heard Yet Media.